Hi all, thanks for taking the time to attend Synup webinar. So I'd like to welcome all of you. So my name is Sendil. I'm the head of customer success at Synup. So we're really excited to host our first webinar, right? So what are Synup webinars? So over here we'll be getting industry experts to come and talk about frequent business problems that agencies face and how effectively to solve them. We are super excited to kick off our first webinar with Dave Schneider, CEO of Churn. So a quick intro about Dave. Dave started Ninja Outreach and influencer outreach software with Mark Sams in 2014. He exited Ninja Outreach in March 2018 after growing it to a 20% company and doing over 1 million in sales. He then went on to start up LessChurn.io in April 2018. To give a quick introduction to LessChurn, it's one of the simplest churn reduction app. It offers business users detours to prevent them from canceling while collecting feedback from those who do. Today, the problem we want to address is how to manage customer churn in an agency, right? So, with over 40% client turnover year over year, customer churn is a very common problem for small and medium sized business. With that, I will let Dave take things forward from here. Dave, over to you.
Awesome. Thanks for that introduction, Senthil. And basically, as he already mentioned, my name is Dave. I'm the founder of Churn, previously Ninja Outreach. And today we're going to be talking about everybody's favorite topic, which is churn. Now, it's going to be sort of typical webinar format. We'll go through the topics, the slides. And if you have questions, feel free to write them in the chat. But just to keep everything smooth and flowing, we're going to address them at the end of the webinar. So don't think that we're ignoring you. We're just kind of waiting to basically handle it all at once at the end. And for now, we'll kind of go through the content. So I believe that I have requested remote control access to Senthil's screen here, which will allow me to handle the slides. Did you get that request, Senthil?
I'm just checking on this, Dave.
Well, while we're waiting for that request, we can go through the agenda for today's webinar. Basically, we have understanding customer churn, so kind of just a general overview of the topic that we're going to be discussing today. Calculating churn, how do you actually calculate it? How do you know what your churn rate is? Causes for churn, what are some of the reasons why customers might be churning? Ways to prevent it, and then finally, how to add value to customers to make sure that they don't churn. So a pretty full agenda today, to talk about churn. So next slide, please. So let's start with understanding customer churn. All right, moving into the next slide as well. So basically, there's different types of churn. We have two that we're going to mention today, but there's really no there's many different types of churn. So customers basically focusing on the customers who are canceling maybe their subscription, or they're being no longer a client, or essentially the individual customer is leaving your business. Revenue churn really focuses on the revenue that's lost. Now, you might wonder how these are different, because customers obviously bring revenue. When customers leave, then the revenue is lost, and you're right, they are obviously related. But revenue really taps into the size of the customer that leaves. So if a customer who's paying you $10 a month leaves versus a customer paying you $100 a month leaves or more, those could each be the same in terms of customer churn, but the revenue churn would be very different. Revenue churn tracks kind of how many of your maybe larger or smaller customers are leaving. It gives you kind of a sense of that. But in some ways, it's a little bit, it can be a bit skewed, because if you have a month where maybe like a really, really large customer leaves, and there was only one guy, but he was paying a lot of money, then your revenue churn is going to look really high, whereas your basically customer churn is going to look, Sorry, Sento, when you get a chance, can we go back to the slides?
Yes.
No worries. So basically, in terms of basically the customer churn, that's what we're going to be focusing on more today, because it's a little bit more of an indicator about what's going on with the customers, and that's kind of the focus. So I believe I now have control of the screen. So let me try going to the next slide. And here we are. Great. So additionally, when we talk about churn, we also have to differentiate voluntary and involuntary churn. Now, voluntary churn is sort of a purposeful decision by the customer to switch to another company or service provider. And involuntary is the exact opposite. It's circumstances that cause the customer to leave. Maybe they had to relocate. There may have been some sort of death or family issues, just something that's kind of out of their control. And it's important also to distinguish when we talk about churn, whether the churn is voluntary or involuntary, because involuntary churn is a little more difficult to act on. It's sort of these circumstances are generally out of the customer's control. They're out of your control, and they just kind of happen. And almost every business is going to have some amount of involuntary churn, no matter how good they're doing. And so when we talk about churn and kind of fighting churn, we talk mainly about voluntary churn, and that's kind of the topic for discussion. So customer churn and voluntary churn are where the focus is going to be for today's presentation, but it's always good to be aware of these other ones as well. So let's see, let's go to the next slide here. Waiting for that slide to move. Okay, here we go. Calculate customer churn, yeah. So how do you actually calculate customer churn? Well, I mean, in short, it's the number of churned customers divided by the total number of customers, right? It seems simple, but I can tell you that it's actually not as simple as you might think. And that's because your business is moving, right? It's not just on the first day of the month, you have X and then nothing happens for 30 days. And then all of a sudden, on the first day of the next month, all the numbers change immediately. It's your business is dynamically moving every day. Customers are signing up, customers are churning. You have new customers in a month. You have customers that are new that month and churn in the same month. So how do you kind of go about calculating customer churn? Well, to be honest, there is not really one necessarily agreed upon definition. There are just sort of different ways to kind of go about it. All of them have their pluses and minuses. I was actually reading an article recently. It was called 41 Ways to basically calculate customer churn. So that gives you an idea of just how sort of difficult it can be. I think, the general takeaway is that you can calculate it different ways, but the most important thing is that you're calculating it the same way every month. And if you're being consistent, then the numbers will have meaning and the up and down trajectory of those numbers will have meaning. So that's the most important thing. But let's give an example of a way, sort of a simple way to calculate churn that was recommended in ProfitWell's complete SaaS guide to calculating churn and how to keep it simple. So they have a business here. This business appears to be doing quite well because they already have over 10,000 customers. I think we'd all love to be running that business. And their churn rate, basically in August, they lose 500 existing customers. So of those 10,000, 500 of them left. But they also got 5,000 new customers. So 50% growth in 1 month, also doing fantastic. And there's a new churn of 125, meaning that of those 5,000 new customers that left, 125 of them canceled. So the total customers at the end of the month is 14,375. That's 15,000 minus the 625. And the churn rate via the simple calculation is 6.25%, which is basically came about from adding 500 and 125 for the total number of customers that left in that month, independent of whether or not they were already a customer or just joined in that month, divided by the total number of customers at the beginning of the month, which is 10,000. So basically, that is how they get to 6.25% here. And in September, they run through the same calculation. So we could get into the plus and minuses of this. Essentially, a company like this that has a really large growth rate, their churn is going to look kind of higher than it should be because they have so many new customers coming, and then some portion of those customers are going to churn, and you're going to be dividing that by a much smaller number of existing customers because like I said, the growth rate in a month was so high. But effectively, this is a fair, simple way to kind of go about calculating churn and gives you an idea of how you can go about it with your business. So we'll leave it at that and not get into all the other methods. So let's get into more interesting topics around churn. Aside from the definition, the calculation, why do people leave? What is really behind it? And I mean, to be fair here, we're all consumers. We all subscribe to different businesses. So when you think about why customers might be leaving your agency or your business, you can just also think about why you maybe left the last business that you left, why you canceled that last subscription. And if you can actively think about, what made you to do that, what was the last straw, so to speak, you can take those learnings and apply it to your own business and basically try to save your future self. So again, voluntary and involuntary. Let's start with involuntary. These are the things that are kind of out of your control, but they're still kind of interesting to be aware of, to have a general sense of what's going on in the market. These could be things like a person at the company leaves. So sometimes you have a point of contact at a company. They're the one that's representing your client. And if they leave, they get another job or they quit or something like that, you may lose contact with the greater organization. And if they're not aware, they might not think to find a replacement, because as we all know, there are just times when things are going on at a business and only one guy really knows, who a provider is or something like that. So if they leave, that's it. Another is company goes out of business. This happens a lot in the small to medium-sized business market. You have startups, you have small businesses. They're trying and they might not be making it, and the company can just go out of business, and naturally they're going to cancel all of everything that they're working on. And sort of similarly, almost a precursor to going out of business might be the need to reduce costs. So if maybe you're not as profitable as you'd like, you might need to cut some subscriptions, or just you can't afford to pay for anything. And then finally, we have things like credit card bounces and credit card failures. So let's say somebody's on maybe a kind of automated subscription. They've got their credit card, they're being billed monthly for a service or software. Eventually, that credit card may expire, and it will bounce the payment. And if it is not updated, then eventually you'll lose that entire customer. So these things are more or less out of your control. There are things you can do to fight, for example, credit card bounces and failures. You can remind people to update their credit card and things like that. So it's not completely out of your control, but more or less it's what we call involuntary churn. Voluntary, on the other hand, is where things get a bit more interesting. It's competitors, for example. Everyone's always worried about competitors, that they might be launching maybe a better service or a lower price, or a new one is entering the market and they're making a splash. So they can certainly draw away customers. A lack of maybe features or different aspects to your service. With software, this is sort of obvious, right? Someone might be looking for, email outreach in the software, and that just might be something you don't offer. But if it's an agency, you can still have a lack of features, so to speak. Let's say, for example, you run a link building service where you help companies build links, and they're specifically looking to be able to maybe focus on links that have a high enough domain authority, or they're looking for only do follow links, or just different aspects of the service that maybe you don't provide at the moment. They might go elsewhere to see who can provide that. Bad service, basically customer service. If somebody has a problem, they'll reach out, and if that problem isn't handled well or effectively, they're going to have a bad opinion of the company. And that is kind of, the front line of churn. If you're not providing good customer service, if you're not responding to inquiries quickly, say within 24 hours is kind of a standard expectation nowadays on a weekday, and people are not being polite and helpful, then people are eventually going to go elsewhere. Price can definitely be one. Although when people sign up, they often are aware of the price. Over time, they may become more price sensitive, or, like I said, they might be trying to reduce costs. So there could be various reasons why they might, or a competitor could come out with a lower price. So all of these things are reasons why, price might be a factor. And the last one is maybe one of the ones that is least thought about, but almost the most important, is that they were never truly onboarded. Now, what does that mean? What I mean is that when somebody signs up to be a customer of your, your agency, your software, whatever your business is, they have to get acquainted with what it is you do and what it is you provide, and really why they're kind of going to be paying you. Obviously, there's your website, and they see, what it is you state that you do, and the different maybe features or aspects of the service. But there's a big difference between looking at a website and actually being a customer of a business. And if you're not really truly onboarding your customers, which can be done through various ways, like sending welcome emails or doing demos or some sort of educational outreach or content, then they're never going to become sticky. And if they don't become sticky with your business, then yours is going to be one of the first ones that they leave when maybe they have to reduce costs or something like that. When something kind of goes wrong, they're going to look at the places that they don't feel like they're using all that much. And later on, they might even, go so far as to kind of question the value and what they're paying for and things like that. So basically making sure your customers are onboarded, that they're fully aware of the service is maybe the best approach. And although I don't want to get too far into onboarding because it really is its own separate topic, a lot of businesses will have what they call, onboarding steps or stages, which is essentially a checklist of things that the customer really needs to do for us to feel that they're truly onboarded. So it might be they sign up, they schedule a demo, they create their account, they invite a friend, and they submit a form or whatever it is. And these types of actions give us an indication of how onboarded the customer is. So there's a lot that could be said about that, but we'll leave it at that. So we know now, why, at least some of the reasons why customers churn. How can we prevent it? That's what we're all here for, right? To find out how to reduce churn. So luckily, there is a lot that you can do, and probably a lot that, more that we should all be doing to prevent churn. So let's talk about some of those things that can help. So of course, it always starts with great service. Obviously, if you're providing great service, then you can be less concerned about people churning. Now, great service is sort of general. What does that really mean? But essentially it means that it can mean customer service, that you're providing good customer service, quick feedback, detailed explanations. It can be that you're making the value of your service clear. So why is someone paying you for the work? Often with our own businesses, we know the value of what we're providing. We know why we do what we do and why somebody should be paying us, but it's a very easy trap to fall into, that we might not be aware that the customer is not as familiar with the value that we're providing as we are, and that we have to make extra efforts to remind the customer what value they're getting and why it's worth what they're paying for. So, for example, if this is a service, like the link building service that I mentioned before, then a great way to show the value would be able to pinpoint maybe the traffic from the links that you were able to build, or an increase in organic traffic. That would be kind of the holy grail of being able to show the value of your service. But at a minimum, you want to be able to show the links that you provided, and the quality of those links, how much authority they had, and even maybe indications of how difficult it could be to get those links otherwise. Just kind of making the value of your service very clear. Another aspect is to have features, and I quoted this because I don't want everyone to just think software, that no one else has. So, again, link building, there are many link building services out there. They all approach it very differently. What would make your service sort of different? Why should somebody use you over somebody else? And these sort of sticky features is what basically gets you hooked, right? If you look at, say, like Netflix, for example, not so much an agency, more of a program, but they have originals, right? They have Netflix originals. This is somewhat of a new thing that they've been doing in the last couple of years. It was a bit of a gamble, cost a lot of money, but now they have shows that are only offered on Netflix. And basically, if you are to try to go elsewhere and cancel your subscription, you cannot find those shows anywhere else, not on Amazon Prime or Hulu or anything like that. So those types of differentiators make your product or your service very sticky. And honestly, even if you can just have one thing that makes it very sticky, that can be enough to keep somebody there. So don't underestimate how important this is. Engaging the customer through phone calls and content. How do you keep the customer loyal and to stay top of mind? Basically, you want to build a relationship with your customers. You want them to feel like they know you. It can even knowing customer support is not necessarily a bad thing. People, they get familiar with a particular agent, or maybe they've spoken to somebody like a management or representative on the phone. And when they build these types of relationships, it doesn't mean, of course, they'll never cancel, but it means probably that they're going to be more likely to give you a second chance, to let you know when something's wrong, right? So instead of just saying, oh, this is wrong, there's a bug, or there's some bad service, you can cancel, what they're going to do is they're going to actually reach out to the person that they know, let you know the problem that they're having, and give you a chance to solve that problem. And when they do, then you're going to keep them from churning. Feedback. Why are people churning? Basically, a lot of times we focus on the current customers that we have, which is these top three examples are very much oriented towards our current customer base. But let's not forget about people that have left us. I've seen some businesses, they have a little bit of maybe a bit of a chip on their shoulder, a little bit of an attitude of, you know what, good riddance. If these guys left, we don't need them, they're not the right fit, etc. And they don't try to learn from the customers that leave. And if you don't learn from the customers that leave, then essentially you're not informing yourself to then protect the customers that you have, because there's no such, everybody falls into different groups and buckets and user profiles. And basically, you're going to see the types of customers and the reasons for people leaving over and over again. And if you're not kind of addressing that, then it's just going to kind of repeat itself. History repeats itself. So collecting feedback from people that leave is going to be one of the best things to combat future churn. And then finally, reporting, notifications, reminders. What business, service or software doesn't have some sort of notifications, reminders, reporting that basically is intended to keep you engaged, and to keep you thinking about their business. Now, some businesses, in my opinion, go too far. Facebook, for example, I was looking at the notifications I send out to my phone, and they have just gone so deep with notifications these days. Basically, they'll say that someone's friend request is waiting for you, or somebody left a comment on something that wasn't even really related to you. I think you can go too far with notifications and reminders. You don't want people to get so annoyed that they just turn all of them off. But a weekly or a monthly report, a status report, these types of things usually are appreciated. People want to know in a digestible way what's going on with their business and your business. There are also what we call less desirable ways to reduce churn. Let's be honest, there are plenty of companies that do these types of things, and you may be one of them, and they may work. You'll have to kind of consider the benefits versus the costs of these types of approaches. If you really do have a significant churn problem and you're trying to get a handle on it, perhaps this might be the way to go. However, as I mentioned, we're all consumers of different businesses as well, and we know that it can be kind of frustrating to run into these different roadblocks. So I would say use it with caution. So one might be forcing people into some sort of contract or an annual plan that basically says that you have to stick around for a long time. Most people like the ability to be able to cancel whenever they want. End a monthly subscription, and then that's it. So they don't like being forced into sort of contracts or annual plans. But occasionally there is a reason to do this. For example, if your service just requires a lot of upfront cost and effort, maybe to do research and to profile the customer and to set up their account and all these different types of things, then it can be understandable that you require a commitment from the customer that they're not just going to leave all of a sudden one day. So again, it does work both ways. We understand that. Two can just be hiding contact information and making it difficult to get a hold of a representative. I recently was in my Amazon account and I was looking to cancel the Audible membership that came with it. And it's just impossible to find where that membership cancel button is. And I think that is not a mistake. That is basically they're trying to make it sort of difficult for you to cancel it so that eventually you just give up and forget about it, or and pay another month. Not my favorite approach, but some of the companies they'll do that. Another can be cancellation fees, or sort of similar with like a contract where somebody leaves, they get charged money or they get charged for an extra month. There's one software that I was subscribed to, and they basically said that if you cancel you sort of have to give a month's notice, so you kind of end up having to pay an extra month whenever you cancel. And that of course, like, the company maybe is going to make some more money when they do that approach, but the person who cancels is they're not gonna recommend that company. They're unlikely to sign up again, and they may even post a bad review in a worst case scenario. So I would, like I said, these types of things are out there, but used with caution. There are also a lot of great tools that can be used to measure and combat churn. Now, many of these are geared towards software applications, or at least some sort of subscription or membership service. So they might not all be applicable, but there's something that you can definitely check out. So number one is ProfitWell's Retain. I mentioned earlier on in the slideshow that there were ways to combat expired credit cards and bounced credit cards, and ProfitWell's Retain is definitely one of them. It's what they call a dunning service, and dunning is when it's exactly what I mentioned. It's when when a credit card expires or fails, they go out, they try to get the customer, they send them emails, they do in-app messages, they recharge the credit card, they remind the customer before the card expires that they can basically update it. And they have like a whole nice platform in there that sort of shows you, what's going on. It's really nice, and I believe they only charge a fraction of what they get back, meaning that you don't actually have to pay for this unless they're making you money. So that's really nice. Barometrics is another insights tool, basically similar to ProfitWell, and it is we'll tell you all about. We'll track your churn rate for you, and basically let you know what your churn rate is. They'll track both customer and revenue churn, and they also have a dunning service. Excuse me, Senthil, can we back to slide when you have a minute?
Yes.
I like the lion picture though.
Yes. Sorry, something wrong.
No worries. We're back. So basically, if you found the churn rate calculation to be a bit, say, annoying, then these tools like Barometrics will help automate that for you. They'll tell you your customer churn rate, your revenue churn rate, different things like that. Again, it has to have some sort of subscription aspect to it, but that's nice. Churn Buster is a dunning service, so it's very similar to ProfitWell's Retain. Failed payments, things like that. Less Churn, which is my tool, is a bit different from these. It helps you prevent customers from canceling by offering detours for that customer. We have a case study at the end of the webinar to kind of show a bit more about how that's worked in practice. So we'll leave it at that. And then we have Synup, location intelligence software that organizes business information, makes it available everywhere. Senthil, is there anything else you want to add about Synup in respect to this list?
Yes, Dave, sure. So yeah, as Dave mentioned, we are into location intelligence software, right? So we literally help thousands of agencies and multi-location business. So instead of an agency or a multi-location business having to deal with hundreds of directories, you could consider Synup to be your unified platform. It's going to be a one-stop shop. So using one dashboard, you're going to be able to manage your citations on hundreds of directories. You'll be able to track your ranking, run review generation campaigns, and also we have detailed analytics. So it benefits an agency tremendously, right? So you could get hundreds of small and medium-sized businesses, and you needn't have to focus on the hassle of working with multiple directories. So it's just one platform where you come and put in the details, and we take care of the rest, right? So, and Dave did emphasize on the onboarding process. So this actually cut shorts and agencies onboarding significantly, because we kind of handhold and we make sure that your SMB businesses are onboarded seamlessly on the platform, right? Yeah.
Awesome. And I know we have a case study also at the end of this webinar of how Synup has gone about helping reduce churn. So I'm excited to go through that one as well. So in addition to those tools, there are different types of approaches as well. To generally geared towards keeping the customer engaged and keeping the dialogue and the feedback running smoothly. So this can be things like loyalty programs where customers can earn benefits and bonuses that kind of keep them interested. So for example, I have an Amex card, and you can earn points on that card. You get, say, $15 of Uber credit a month. These types of additional benefits are a reason to sort of stick with that card over another card. Rewards, you see a lot of gamification and sort of earning rewards if you maybe refer a friend or a customer, and these rewards might eventually lead to additional features or upgrades or some sort of preferred service that basically keeps people feeling very committed to that brand. We have customer service and satisfaction. So I mean, basically, if you have a problem with churn, the first thing I would take a look at is customer service, and see what's going on with that. I'm not saying it's that your customer service is bad. I'm just saying that basically it's sort of generally where unhappy people go. So if you're wondering why people are canceling, review the conversations they had with customer service. What types of problems were they having, and how were those problems solved? Were they solved in a timely manner? Did the customer come back maybe several times related to the same issue? Are you measuring your customer satisfaction? There's a lot of tools out there that can do what are called net promoter surveys that will measure the customer satisfaction. One of them is Wootrick, but there are others like I think First Responder. There's many different types of tools out there that can sort of measure your customer satisfaction and give you an indication of a potential unhappy customer that of maybe churning in the next couple of weeks or months. Larger businesses may actually want to invest in a dedicated retention manager. This is literally somebody's job to just keep clients active. The aspects of that role might be having phone calls with key customers, especially the ones that are, paying a lot of money, reviewing, customer support, conversations, just kind of being a relationship type of manager, and being, also can be responsible for trying to win people back, right? So just because somebody has canceled, it does not mean that they'll never come back. They may say, I needed a few months to, I'm going to go on, a long vacation, or maybe they just need to reduce costs for a few months. Whatever it is, they might be ready to go to get back into business in a couple months, and somebody dedicated on maintaining those conversations and doing that outreach can definitely be helpful. Exit surveys and emails. So like we mentioned before, I mean, are you collecting feedback from people that leave? Do you know the top 5 reasons why people leave and their distribution, right? If you're not sure about that, then this lack of information and research is going to be a handicap for you in order to actually fight churn. Basically, you need to know, is the issue that the pricing is too high for the service, or is it some sort of lack of feature, or is it some sort of competitor, or what is going on? What are the reasons? And then just general 30, 60, 90-day milestone feedback. So checking in with people once a month to understand how it's going, basically. It may not even be a stated problem. It's just kind of a check-in to kind of see what they think. People like to be asked for their opinion, and they like even more for their opinion to be taken into consideration. So if you can actually get these feedbacks, out there, these emails or in-app messages or whatever it is that you're using to communicate with customers, and then categorize that feedback and even try to actually act on it and then let the customer know what was done, you're really going to win business for life. Now, sort of going back to calculations, after all is said and done, we never actually really said what a good churn rate is. And, it is similar to kind of calculating churn. It is very difficult to really say. I mean, we can kind of say, for example, that a 50% churn rate is not very good, right? If half your customer base is leaving every month, that would be obviously pretty poor. But what about 10% or 5 or even 1? Different businesses have different, metrics or KPIs. And frankly, it's even possible to achieve negative churn rate. If you're wondering what that means, it essentially means that if enough people upgrade to counteract the lost revenue, you could actually have what's called negative churn rate. So basically, everything is possible. The lower, the better. But we do have some statistics for you. Now, unfortunately, I believe that the majority of audience is agencies, and agency statistics were a little more difficult to come by. But we do have at least a general some analysis that we can take a look at, and this was specifically for software businesses that are subscribed to Barometrics. Barometrics is one of the tools that I mentioned earlier. They have the dashboard for reporting, and they openly share at a high level the numbers of the business. And you can see this on their website, by the way, if you're interested in exploring this later. And it shows that, for example, for businesses that charge between $50 to $100 per month, the typical churn is around 9 to 10%. You can see the revenue churn is slightly higher than the user churn. By now you understand the difference of that. So you can kind of look at the different revenue per user. And if you're an agency, you might be charging a bit more, in the $250 and up range, and you can kind of see how the churn changes. But this, gives you a bit of a general idea of where many people are at. So, single digits is kind of where we're looking to be, but the lower the better. So let's go through some case studies. I mentioned earlier that we have a case study from Less Churn and a case study from Synup to actually kind of show you how companies can, actively take steps to reduce churn. So this is the case study for Less Churn. So this is actually one of my businesses saving the other business money. How Less Churn saved Ninja $18,000. So basically, Less Churn, as I mentioned, it's an exit survey. So when somebody clicks to cancel, it asks them to sort of say why they want to cancel, and also gives them some other options that they could maybe do instead of canceling. So some of those things might be, I'd like to extend my trial because I didn't have enough time. Some of them can be, I don't have time to use it. Maybe you could do it for me. This was actually a pitch for our services. So it was I want a discount because it costs too much. And the other was just, I want to cancel it. So you can see kind of what would happen if with each option. And essentially, we're trying to kind of address sort of dynamically some of the reasons for churn that we mentioned earlier. So for example, pricing, or I don't have the time, or I haven't had time to basically get onboarded, so I need to extend my trial. So we would kind of approach users with these different options. And what we found was that many people wanted to extend their trial. They just needed more time, basically. So we had a 14-day free trial, so they wanted an additional 14 days. They were still interested in the software and trying it out, but they needed some more time. Some people also, wanted a discount. A smaller subset, but still not insignificant. So in this way, we were able to save a lot of people from canceling. Now, some of these people that extended their trial, they still eventually could go on to cancel, but many of them went on to pay as well. And in that way, we sort of reduced our churn and saving the tagline there, saved $18,000. Well, that was essentially the money that we saw come in from people that otherwise were planning on canceling, but then decided to stick around. So that was kind of the savings there. So, I mean, churn definitely, can produce a lot of savings. So that is basically the case study. In summary, we had over 2,000 cancellations in 2 years. So by no means am I unfamiliar with churn. 326 people used some sort of a detour option, meaning they extended their trial or they added a discount. And out of those, 100 people basically were saved, totaling over 18 grand. So basically, that's kind of in a nutshell. And there's a link there to the detailed case study if you're interested. So now I'm going to hand it over to Synup to talk about their case study and take it away.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, so the case study we have here is with one of our agencies, which is Ahead of the Web. And they had two main problems, right? So the first thing is that they had multiple dental practice locations, literally hundreds of them, and they wanted to improve their local search rankings and track their rankings. And the second bit being having multiple locations. One of their nightmares was how do they go about managing the citations across different directories. So this is the exact business problem that Synup helped them with. So firstly, we gave them a unified platform where just by entering the details once on the Synup platform, their information is synced across multiple directories. By doing this, it really saved the agency a lot of time and also helped the agency provide a positive onboarding experiences to their end customers, right? And the second bit is, with regards to the citations, we took care of managing those citations and making sure that all the data is correctly synced and that the data is authentic on these directories. So thereby, we literally saved the agency hundreds of business hours, if not. This is a task which they would have to do manually, right? So these were the two main concerns, and this is how we helped them address it. And the main thing for this particular agency was tracking ranks. So using the Synup dashboard, they were able to track the rankings of every keyword across the different locations using a single unified dashboard. Okay. So now let's look at the results as to how we have them. Okay. So firstly, we noticed that there was a steady increase in the number of phone calls, right? And we also saw a steady increase in the request for directions. So a lot of people started visiting their stores. There were a lot of incoming queries, which directly translated to more revenue, which each of these locations were making. And the second bit is they also scaled up to 83 locations with Synup. So they started off with a small batch and then they scaled up over time. So you could just imagine, right? So for 83 locations, if they had to make sure the citations were up and running on multiple directories and that the data was authentic, right? That would have been a challenge, right? Okay.
So I just exit out of that.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a way like how we go ahead and we've helped multiple agencies, make sure that they're getting the maximum amount of their investment with Synup and also bring about the scalability factor, which helps these customers grow. And the other beautiful thing about Synup and how we help is that we have a dedicated team where we share, industry best practices with agencies so that they could in turn service their end customers. So the agencies definitely have something which they can someone who they could fall back on, who would help them with their day-to-day activities with their end customers, right? So we have much more case studies available under the resource section on our website. So feel free to access it. Yep. So I think that's, Dave, take it
Awesome.
over.
Thanks for that overview of Synup and that case study on churn. So I think, guys, that concludes the webinar. If there are any questions, and they can be as specific as you want, we're happy to basically try to answer them. So let's get into the Q&A. And Central, why don't I give you back control, and we can see if there's any Q&A.
Yes, we're just taking a look at it. No, Dave, we don't have any questions at this point of time. So,
well, wait a minute. We do have one, and it's Synup available in the UK.
Super. Okay. Uh, yes, sign up is going to be available in UK pretty soon, right? So, however, yeah, you could just reach us on our support line, and we should be able to give you more details about this.
Cool. Anything else, guys, or even not a question, but maybe just a comment on a favorite takeaway, or perhaps something that you would like to try to reduce churn, maybe at your agency or in your business, just to jog ideas a little bit, get people thinking about what they're going to do. What about you, Senta? While we're on the call here, is there any favorite takeaway that you had from the webinar?
Yes, definitely. I like the bit wherein we focused on the voluntary and involuntary churn because involuntary churn is something which we don't have control, but the voluntary churn is something which we could definitely uh, you know help with. For example, customer experience is a key differentiator in today's world, right? So that's one thing, and I also like the fact that how you emphasized on the different features, how they impact churn as well. So this is something as a customer success person I encounter day in and day out. So, and a lot of our agencies too face similar challenges, right? So this is something which we strive a lot to make sure that there are certain elements of churn which is definitely in our control and how we could actually reduce it. So that was a key takeaway for me, which was very helpful.
Perfect. And there was a question from Bobby. He wants to know if they'll be able to receive a copy of this recording. So can you tell us a
Yes,
little bit about that?
yes, Dave. So everyone who's registered for this particular webinar will be receiving a recording of the webinar.
So everyone will be receiving the recording via email?
Yes, they would be receiving the recording via email. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you, Bobby, for your participation. And I think that's going to wrap it up. So if you want to get in touch with me, lestrent.io is my business, and we have a live chat on the website as well. And Synup, I believe everyone is already very familiar with. So thank you guys for joining us, and I hope that it was informative for you. And thank you, Sento, for being a fabulous co-host.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for sharing your insights. This was extremely helpful, and I'd like to thank all the participants. So it was a pleasure having you guys. So looking forward to coordinating with most of you.
Cool.
Okay?
Okay. Signing off.
Thanks, guys. Bye.